What is up, everybody? Welcome to Trainwreck Sports here, sponsored by Toledo Plumbing and HVAC and Buffalo Freddy Party Rental. We are here earlier than we anticipated because the Buffalo Bills have traded up into the second round to pick 41. Mike, where are you at on the screen? It says the pick is in for me right now as we're here.
It says pick is in. They're showing the guys at the table right now. I have no clue where we're going, but defensive tackle could be on a possibility. Defensive end. There's a bunch of different directions they could go. We thought they could trade up. There has to be a guy that they really like at this point.
That has to be, right? Who do you think this could be? I wasn't even ready to look at the board yet. Anything I said in 10 minutes, let's get assess and decide to go live and get ready. And now we're just scrambling here. What do we think?
I'm a little bit in scramble mode. There's Donovan.
Can we go Darius? Our guy, Darius. What's his name?
Darius Alexander could be the guy. I'm obviously Mike Green has concerns with his character and some stuff off the field. So
very true.
Let's not assume that would be the pick. There's a lot of great guys on the board at the moment. So, hey, we got Maniac now. We got Donnie. So we're waiting.
Sanders working around the offensive zone. Oh, Dater! Oh.
We're all gonna be quiet.
Loose ball, we need it. Oh! The pick is in. We traded up, huh?
We're
waiting. We're waiting
on TV to hear what it is, though. We're not going to spoil it on Twitter. So all waiting right here to see what's going to go on.
Yeah, man, this is interesting. So we have the details of the trade here as they're walking up. They traded. They will have pick 72 later on, but they traded 56 and 62. So both seconds gone, but they will have a third round pick later tonight.
And I think it's Lee Evans announcing this pick. They're doing the Wisconsin theme. All right, he's at the podium.
We got our guy, apparently. The Bills just tweeted. They got their guy.
Okay.
That's all that matters. We got our guy. It was ready to go.
Got our guy. We got our guy. TJ Sanders, South Carolina, defensive tackle at 41. So this is the guy they love. This is the guy they wanted to go out and get. Maybe a first round grade on TJ Sanders, 6'3", 297. You said, Bunt, as we were going, defensive tackle. Is this a guy is this where they're going up to get? And they went up and they must have loved him. So do you have any thoughts on Sanders specifically or anything? I mean, he's in this group, definitely just one of these guys in this group that I felt like if they loved one of these guys, go and get him for sure. We talked about it last night, potential to go up into the second round. So I'm happy to see them doing it. He had great production throughout his career. What do you think, Bun?
Yeah, he's a solid player, played at South Carolina. You can see the stats on the screen right now, 9.5 sacks over his time in college, 18.5 tackles for loss. He's a quality prospect. I don't know if he was one of the top guys that Bills fans were talking about during the draft process, but definitely a name that has been discussed over the past couple weeks as near this point. Most importantly, Brandon Beane thought that he was worth trading up for. So the Bills got a guy that they coveted. Yes, there were different directions they could have gone, but at the end of the day, they made sure they got their person. That's what matters. You'd rather go out swinging on your guys than waiting and then missing out on your people.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, so what do you think about this trade? They traded 56, 62, and 109. They get 41, 72, and 240. I feel like that's a pretty even deal. I don't think that you can complain about that at all. Like, that seems pretty fair. They still get to have another pick tonight to add to this team. What do you think?
So yeah, it's pretty fair overall. So they got 41, 72, and they gave up 56, and obviously 62. And then what were the later picks that they got?
They got 240. They gave up 109.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's really the one pick that they're going to drop quite a bit. But at the end of the day, they got their guy. It's about adding some talent, trying to get some guys towards the top of day two. So I'm okay with it. I'm perfectly fine. Now you end up having one pick first, second, third, even yourself out of order. I'm perfectly okay.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's exactly what we wanted them to address, exactly what we wanted them to go here. How are you guys feeling there in Banditland? How are the vibes? I hear shot, or see shot at least. Vibes are high. I think vibes are high there. All right, I think they're gone from Banditland now.
We lost them.
But
So let's talk about Sanders for a little bit. And it's crazy, dude. We were planning on going live around 8 and kind of just getting into it. And this kind of just popped up out of nowhere. So let's just go full steam ahead right now. Pull up what kind of strengths, weaknesses of TJ Sanders and what he brings to the table based on stuff from the experts. Strengths, stout resistance at the point of attack, violent with his hands. He strikes first, full extension and reads the runner as a two-gapper, good with discarding blocks, rush swipes, hard to redirect. Some of the weaknesses that we're seeing on NFL.com, lacks desired knee bend, has trouble battling back against down blocks, average first step quickness for an interior rusher, hands play slightly ahead of his feet with his rush, and then tight hips prevent quick change of direction. That's a lot of stuff. At the end of the day, Jake, that's all intricacies for people that watch a lot of film, that know how to break down all of this. We have a lot of fun, but let's be real. You and I are not gonna be able to break down the small little things.
Yeah, he was a guy that I put out 2 defensive tackles today. I would have preferred, if you would have asked me honestly, I would have preferred Collins just because he's 30 pounds heavier. That's not a great reason, but that's what I would have done in that moment. I had Jordan Farmer on there. This is fine though. I think Sanders or Farmer, I would have been happy with either. I picked Farmer for what I wanted earlier, what I was thinking ahead. But if Brandon Beane, if they're thinking they're going out and they are IDing this guy in this spot right now, I'm trusting it. And this is what we wanted them to do. We wanted them to address cornerback and D tackle, and they did that early in this draft, in almost the top 40 picks. That's all you can really ask for from what they were trying to do here. So I love it, man. I'm very, very intrigued to see what the plan is, how they're going to utilize him, and if it is going to be a rotation, is it going to be, what the plan's going to be. But this is what we asked for. Everything, when we did the mock, we've been talking about, we wanted them to address these 2 positions. It was really obvious, and they've done it. And they're going to be a better team for it going forward.
Absolutely. So I went into the draft thinking, Jake, that I needed some combo of cornerback and defensive tackle with 2 of the first 3 picks. And I really didn't care what happened with the 3rd pick that they were going to have in the 2nd round, as long as they had those 2 things taken care of. That's still where I'm at this point, now that 2nd round pick at 62 essentially becomes a 3rd round pick here. So at the end of the day, you got to be happy. You got a starting caliber corner, and you have a quality defensive tackle that'll come in right away, be part of the rotation, and make an impact. The NFL.com, their ranking, they had him as a day 2 projection. You go through his player bio throughout the years. This past season, had 50 tackles, seven tackles for loss, 4 sacks. The year before that, 43 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. This is a guy that's been very good in the SEC the past 2 years. And the SEC and the Big Ten, those are the two toughest leagues in college football. This guy has stepped up in that league, has played very well. And now the Bills have much more beef on their defensive line. What is interesting is Beane has kind of shown what he goes after when it comes to drafting defensive linemen. Rarely do the Bills get super big, beefy men. They're always going after guys that are around 300, give or take a little bit. And you look at the measurables for Sanders, listed at 6'4", 297. So he's not overly big for his position, but will provide what the Bills are looking for. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of people were wondering, could the Bills be going after somebody beefier? But no, they decided to go with Sanders.
And it stays true to the Bills. They've wanted a lighter front always, right? Like that's always been the MO of this team, was the lighter front. What we've seen with the linebackers, what we've seen with really the defensive linemen most of the time, and Sanders is going to stay true to that. But like just having another option there, and you add that to a Dwayne Carter, who, let's be honest, like the thing with Carter especially, you have to, it's unfair to him with the injury, right? Like we don't, like I feel like people kind of just decided like that he get a factor already, when I feel like this year could be a big year for him. They could have a big role for him. And then adding in Sanders here, they've gotten younger, a lot younger at the position in a really important time where they needed to get younger. Like Daquan Jones is still going to have a good role on this team, and Ogunjobi, when he's back, will have a big role. But now they have two really good young options in Carter, in Sanders, two guys that they can hopefully develop into rotation guys, starters, whatever else it may be, right? And go forward from there, and then have your stud in Ed Oliver. That's what you would hope for. So it's off. I'm happy that sanity prevailed and that the Bills have been smart. We liked Hairston. Maybe people, I know you even would have preferred Amos. Maybe other people would have preferred Amos, but
they showed, but and then here, maybe other Bills fans would have preferred another defensive tackle prospect, but they went and got a guy who they thought was worth going to get up. They're taking the swings to try to get high-level players. That's all we could have asked for from this draft.
Absolutely. And everybody's going to have different rankings on individuals. The draft experts are going to have their boards. Teams are going to have their own boards. So I don't really worry about too much about where one person has a player versus a team. I see the comment here, feels like you didn't have to trade up to get him. That's an interesting point, but we don't really know how other teams evaluated TJ Sanders. It's one of those.
You also have to think, Mike. They trade up to 41 and they give up 2 seconds, but that 1 second, it's from 62 to 72. I mean, it's a 10-spot drop, but that's not like a ton of value at that point from the end of the second round to the top of the third round. So they're not losing a lot here, in my opinion. And they had the extra fifth, 109, or as a fourth round pick. They have so many day 3 picks. They can't use all of them. Like none of those guys, they're not going to be able to spend all these picks because they're not going to make the roster. Like there's not enough spots on this team. So it's interesting.
And the other thing that we really have to take into account too, we don't know where their rankings were with D tackles and how many guys they still had high grades on that would be valuable still at 56. If this was one of their last remaining guys that they had a decent grade for D tackle, well, then there's a little bit of risk to not move up and get your guy. And if we get to pick number 56 and all their D tackles they want at a high level are off the board, then you're in a spot to where you didn't really improve your defensive line. And
True.
we'd be talking about how this was a major need all season, and that they really didn't do much outside of getting Larry Ojenubi. And we would be a little bit upset about that, especially opening the season where you're playing 6 games where he's going to be suspended. So I don't worry too much about is this an overpay or not, because at the end of the day, what you really did was swap your 2 second-round picks, like you said. One, you move up a little bit. One, you move down a little bit. That evens itself out. Really, where the part of the trade where you kind of conceded was giving up your 4th-round pick and then getting a much later round pick in the draft. But as you said, the Bills are a talented team with not a ton of openings on their roster. I would easily take that all day for the opportunity to lock in a player that they know will immediately have an impact on this team. So I'm not going to pretend to be a TJ Sanders expert and tell you everything about this guy. I'm not going to pretend. There's a bunch of us that'll say we know everything about these players. It's not true. I'm not watching South Carolina football on my Saturdays during college football season. I'm watching much better teams in the Big Ten and the SEC.
Whoa.
Or watching some other
shots fired. What do you got against the Gamecocks, Mike?
They've never really been too relevant outside of a few years in their recent history. But the point of it is, like, just going to some other resources, reading up other scouting reports on him. He's a quality player. And Eric from Cover One kind of had a good point about players and draft spots. When you think about it, if a guy has a 2nd-round projection, whether that be early 2nd round, late 2nd round, and you then get the guy at 41, he basically went right around where he would have been expected to go. So, yeah, okay, you could say, did you have to trade up? Maybe, maybe not. But the guy went where he was supposed to go. Same thing with Maxwell Hairston. Some people thought he could go in the late 1st round. Other people thought he was an early 2nd round pick. At the end of the day, do both players have some flaws? Yeah, but both players also have a lot of intangibles that are exciting that they can work with, and the Bills believe they can develop into quality players. So I'm never going to tell you that player A or player B is going to be a star. They're going to be an immediate high-end contributor or a bust. We have to see how it plays out. You bring them into the building. You hope that they are willing to learn and improve, and you can turn them into something.
Absolutely. So we talked a lot about Sanders, Mike, but we didn't talk a ton about the 1st-round pick last night. It happened quick. It was a chaotic night from Sports City, from Rec Room, and then me and you on here. So let's touch a little bit. We got some time here, and then I think let's stay on. I think maybe like 15 more minutes, 20 more minutes. Do you want to take a break, or do you want to just power through to 72 here? What should we do?
I mean, at this point, this is going pretty fast. We might as well power through to 72 and keep the momentum going right now. We're already started. No reason to take a break.
Fine by me. So give me your thoughts. I know you posted about it a little bit last night and everything, but we're 24 hours later. How do you feel about the Hairston pick? And now pairing it with Sanders here. Do you have you there's been some discourse and everything throughout the day, some people happy, some people not, but so what's your opinion 24 hours later?
So let me just get this typed first, and then I will say that's
fine
in a second.
But you and I are both doing double duty here. I got to get a graphic up. You're doing posting for it. We're working hard here, people, to keep this train never stops. Truly. So
it is kind of crazy on draft day how we're trying to do a million things at once right now. I'm trying to get tweets out and try to get some exposure here. So I think it was a good pick. When I kind of got into the draft process a few weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, and really started diving in because I'll be real, like this draft this year, it didn't have quite the excitement of last year when you knew the Bills were going to get a receiver. Hairston was one of the players that right away kind of caught my attention. Obviously, the 40 time is incredible, 4.28. That's elite speed, the fastest guy in the NFL Combine this year. So that catches your eye right off the bat. Then you read up on the prospect. You hear a little bit more about what he did in college, and he's an impressive player. This is a guy that has high-end potential. Now, is he as safe as other prospects the Bills have chosen over the years? Probably not. There's probably a little bit more risk involved with this pick than some of the other players that maybe they could have gone after. But I like it. What is being safe going to get you? This defense has been proven to be good year after year, but when it matters in the playoffs, they fall short. I like taking a swing at a talented player who has elite speed. And now with Trey White back, you have Dane Jackson back. You have some insurance if he's not ready right off the bat. Now, I pray to God you don't have another Kaiir Elam situation where it takes forever to get to that point. But I'm not even going to think about that at this point in time. I think Hairston is a guy that should thrive in the Bills system. And I think his floor is being cornerback number 2 for the Bills. It's only a matter of time before he gets that chance. And the question will be, does he start right away opposite of Christian Benford, or does Trey White get that opportunity to open the season? I think that's going to be an interesting battle during training camp, during the preseason, to see how it plays out, because Trey was coming off a season where he struggled with the Rams. He had good moments at times with the Ravens, but at the end of the season, he was playing a low percentage of snaps for the most part outside of the playoff game against the Bills, where he played over 50%. Dane Jackson, no Bills fan wants him starting. So I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Hairston to win the starter job out of camp, by the fan base at least. And we will see how it plays out on the field. But I'm going into the season thinking he has a chance.
Yeah, I am in complete alignment with you. It feels like a pick where, yeah, there are definitely things where, I mean, again, it's a guy in the late end of the first round. There's going to be flaws and holes in his game that he needs to work on, and there are things that he needs to work on. And it's not a typical guy you've seen the Bills go after, but the strengths and the upside and the way he could fit in specifically to this defense right now is really exciting. You have to be like, I'm an optimist by nature, at heart. And so I have to look at this side and what he can bring, what he could bring, the element he could bring to this defense is really exciting for me. And especially the opportunity to learn from Trey White and just the culture of that defense and kind of the leadership and everything. It's a great room to come into. I'm just really excited. And I'm excited that they have identified the skill set that they kind of needed, a guy that can run with anybody. And, now we don't have to just different ways to deploy. I found, and I think you agree with me on this, I found Bobby Babich to be really interesting, the way that when he chose to be aggressive, he was sending blitzes, from all over the place by the end of the season and everything else. And so I'm interested to see with kind of different personnel what the Bills defense looks like and how it morphs and evolves as the years go on, and as this is kind of this new core that they've signed on and settled into really takes hold and forms an identity around it.
100%. Now, what's going to be interesting is for years we've always kind of said with the Bills secondary that they have intelligent players, they have smart players, they're good positionally sound, they work as a unit, but maybe they lack the top end athletes, and that even includes Trey White. Like we would never say that Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Trey White, and some of the other players, Dane Jackson, Levi Wallace, are the top end players in the secondary. We would never say that. They're all good, they're all athletic, but they're not the top end athletes. but they were all effective because they were on the same page and they worked together in unison. The one time they went after an athlete, it failed miserably with Kaiir Elam. So you're going to see a lot of people that are probably going to make that comparison because first-round pick, corner from an SEC school, intangibles, a little bit of risk. And it's going to be interesting how fans react when Hairston does have some struggles, because it's not going to be perfect right away. He's going to have mistakes, and it's not going to be
Absolutely
perfect. It's going to be interesting how fans react to that. But one thing that a lot of people that are a little upset with the pick have pointed out is that his tackling is an issue, and like that's fair. Like his tackling is not the best. My response back to that is you see a lot of poor tackling corners throughout the league. That kind of comes with the position. I don't think that's the end of the world. I don't think Trey White is the best tackler at times. I want guys that can cover, and his speed is the most intriguing aspect. Greg Cosell was on One Bills Live, and he said there's scouts across the league that said Maxwell Hairston's tape was better at corner than Travis Hunter. So that's an incredible compliment from him. And you think about it, the Bills had their choice of several corners at pick 30. They could have gone with Will Johnson, who I believe is still available. So his situation must be really bad. Not now. I'm starting to feel bad for the kid because
agreed.
Great college player, just not just falling on this board. Who knows when he's going to get selected at this point? But they still could have gone after a plethora of other guys. You look at the draft board. They could have gone after Revel. They could have gone after Amos, Morrison, Thomas. There was a handful of guys available. So to me, it's clear that at corner, Hairston was the guy. He was always the guy for them, because if they wanted Amos, they could have gone that direction. If they wanted any of these other guys, they could have gone that direction. So at the end of the day, Brandon Beane took who he wanted, and we have a corner, we have a defensive tackle. Who knows how it's going to work out? But if you're a Bills fan and that's the two positions you wanted early in this draft, well, the Bills got him.
Absolutely. Will Johnson just got drafted there.
Yeah.
As it was. Makes sense. Cardinals, we're talking about getting a corner there. So taking a chance on him here makes sense. 47. Yeah. So we're about 20-something picks away from the Buffalo Bills coming back on the clock here at 72. Maybe they move back up. They still, like we said, they have all these extra day 3 picks. If there is somebody else they love, I guess the next thing to talk about, Mike, is with this 3rd round pick, where do they go? Now the draft really opens up, because I personally think I would still just be prudent and go for the edge and get some help there. But I think they could go any direction here. I think wide receiver could be in play. I think safety could be in play. What do you think here with a 3rd round pick that we weren't expecting, but still within the range of their later picks they had? So going to have a lot about the similar, you would expect similar guys to be available that we've been looking at this whole process.
Yeah. So I don't really feel that differently with their 3rd round pick than I did where they were at 62. I went into the draft thinking, get a corner, get a defensive tackle, then you can kind of do whatever you want with that 3rd pick. You could go edge if you wanted. You could go wide receiver. You could go depth at another position like offensive guard. You could go plenty of different ways. I don't really have a number one preference at this point. My thought process in the 3rd round is take whoever you think is the best player on your board at that point. If you see somebody, if there's a tiebreaker, it's who can contribute sooner at a position of need. But if you have a guy that's clearly ahead of another player, just take who the more talented player on your board is. And I don't really care regardless of position, as long as it's like not a punter.
What it is,
or
where
a
it is,
kicker. There's a few positions I would prioritize still, but I wouldn't be picky with where they go. In years past, when the Bills had more weaknesses, I would probably be like, oh, you got to get the linebacker here, or you got to get the running back, you got to get the receiver. I just don't think it really it matters. I don't think it really matters too much in this draft where they go at 72. You said that's where their next pick is going to be. So
yes.
As we get closer, we can kind of evaluate the options that are still on the board at that point. But you know how it works, like in day 2 and then onward in the NFL draft, you circle like 3 or 4 guys. And you're like, I hope they drops. I hope they drop. Then they start dropping. Then you're like, I can't believe these players are still available. Like the Bills are going to be able to pick any of these 5 guys that are going to change this team going forward. And then they pick somebody like you've never heard of. That's like 20 spots lower on your rankings. You're like, I can't believe they did this. And the guy ends up being,
and then we're gonna fail them for the draft because they did it.
Yeah, like we're gonna give them a C because they drafted Dorian Williams. Or like, oh, why did they pick Terrell Bernard? Like Dawson Knox, the guy used to be a quarterback. Like that's how it goes. But I don't really worry too much about that type of stuff.
No, I agree. It's gonna be I wouldn't be too concerned there. I think we're in an interesting spot here where if there is a wide receiver or a running back, there's not really the guys. Luther Burden was really the only wide receiver left that I was like excited about. There are guys that I like things about left, but no one that I'm gonna be like, okay, this is a surefire, like not, and we're at that point, but just nobody that I'm like jumping up and down for. I think there is the potential.
Some positions. What are positions that you're interested in?
I would be interested in wide receiver, but this class of wide receiver just doesn't interest me. So that's part of the issue that I'm having here.
So
Mike,
Let's do this quick, because here are the receivers you're realistically talking about when you get to that point. Based on what's left, you have Trey Harris, you have Jalen Noel out of Iowa State. I don't even know how you pronounce this guy's last name. Jack Beck or Batch.
Royal. So Jalen Royals
is interesting. Kyle Williams is interesting. Could the Bills get Kyle Williams? No. A little bit different.
Skinny Kyle Williams would be an interesting.
Not that the previous Kyle Williams couldn't catch. He had a reception in his final game.
Great hands, soft hands. Jalen Royals is a guy that my brother and I were actually discussing last night, a prospect that we were interested in this spot. But all these guys, like Noel, out of this group, Harris, Noel, Royals, Williams, I think would be guys that I like the most out of those 4. But I would just lump them all together. And so if Brandon Beane picks one of them, I'll be happy. I'll be like, hey, sure. But I can't tell you like that one of them is for sure a better prospect than the other. I think it's a really interesting group where they're all they all just have one really good it doesn't guarantee anything. I don't think that it's going to be a big thing. About what I'm trying to get to, I think here is it's going to be depending on fit for most of these guys' situation where they end up in their career. And so whatever fit works best for the Bills here, chemistry wise, and with this with the basketball group that we talk about with the wide receivers there. So speed obviously being the biggest element. I think you're looking at Kyle Williams as the fastest guy in that thing. But I don't know. Wide receiver is an interesting thing. I would not be opposed though. At this point, we're looking at in the 3rd round. There's Kevin Winston Jr. and Xavier Watts out there at safety. And if they do want to add the safety room, now the one thing with safety here is how much do they love Forrest? How much of a chance do they want to give him in this training camp too? That is a potential thing where he was just in a bad system for his last year and lost playing time. and maybe he's a guy who can compete a little bit too. Maybe not. I don't know. Is it the guy that would stop them from drafting somebody in the 3rd round? Probably not. But that's where we're at this point with the roster, because the roster there's not a lot of holes on this team anymore, Mike. Really,
I think edge is going to be the play.
That's what I was getting back to around here, because the number one guy on my board today was Tamalalo, and I think he's went a couple. Pretty sure he went a couple picks ago, but there's still a lot of great edge prospects out there. Landon Jackson, a guy
that's still available, right?
Mike Pena is still available, but Landon Jackson's a guy that they've done a ton of work on.
Yep, Landon Jackson. You have Josiah Stewart.
Yep.
Jordan Birch. There's the kid from UCLA. There's a lot of good talent still available at edge for the Bills to go that direction. And like I told you yesterday on the show, I did have somebody tell me who is connected to the Bills that they were going to be looking at cornerback and 2 defensive linemen with their top 3 picks. I mean, that's not really rocket science, but like we kind of all figured they would get a corner and defensive tackle. So I guess this pick 72 is going to tell us if what I was told was actually legitimate or not. But it makes sense based on how we went into the offseason. Like, what was the thought going from last year? The offense scored 30 points a game. They had a great running game, good offensive line. You have an MVP quarterback. You already have 3 returning receivers. Not 3 returning receivers, but you got Shakir, you have Coleman, Curtis Samuel. You brought in Josh Palmer. You have 2 tight ends that are good, not great, but good. So offense wasn't really a priority. But in the AFC Championship game, when you had no Christian Benford, your depth at corner got destroyed. Kyrie Elam was horrible. Your defensive line couldn't create enough problems for Mahomes. So it makes sense for this to be a corner, tackle, edge type start for the Bills. And we can dig a little bit into that stuff in a moment here. I do want to talk about one thing that we haven't really addressed on our show, though. And it's not about the Bills, but I think it is a topic that people are interested in. And as we get close to pick 50, I think it needs to be addressed. The NFL is sending a message to Shedeur Sanders right now. and it's not just to Sanders. It's also to the culture that is starting to grow in college football. And what the NFL is saying is that you guys are not bigger than the team. You might have pro money. You might have fame, fortune, all that stuff that you never had at a young age. You still have to earn your stripes in the National Football League. And they're basically saying, we don't think that the talent that Shedeur Sanders has is worthy of dealing with the issues that we would possibly have to deal with him being drafted into our culture. And some of it's his fault. Some of it is not his fault. It is not his fault that he is Deion Sanders' son. That is not his fault. Deion is a Hall of Famer, one of the best players in the history of football, great head coach, great analyst when he was on television, outspoken. He's doing his job promoting his program. He's done a great job at Jackson State in Colorado. But Shedeur Sanders has not done anything to get that ego that he has. He has that ego by having the same last name as his father. And yes, he's been great at Colorado. He was great at Jackson State. There are great players all the time at quarterback in college that don't become anything in the NFL. But I think the NFL is worried that he is not humble enough, that he puts himself above his teammates, that he does not have accountability for his actions and his mistakes on the field. And they realize if you have that mentality as a young quarterback, you are going to get destroyed in an NFL locker room. Quarterbacks are expected to be leaders. They're expected to run a team and take the fall when things don't go right. And I think NFL teams right now are saying, we don't think you have the personality or the character to be running our franchise. If Shedeur Sanders was a corner, if he was a wide receiver, if he was a different position, I don't think this would be a problem right now. I think a team would take him based on his talent. It's that the quarterback is the face of a franchise. And I think if they knew he was a blue chip, top 5 talent, they would take him. But all the talk about, I'm going to decide where I go, Deion wanting to pick his location and not have him go to certain cold weather markets, he damaged himself so much in this pre-draft process. And you know what's going to happen now? He might get drafted in the 3rd round. And you know what that means? He might never even get a shot at being a starter if he gets drafted to the wrong situation. Like he thought he was going to be a day 1 starter in the NFL. And now he's going to a place where he's going to be backup. He's not even a top 3 quarterback in this class. How many people even knew who the quarterback that went 3rd from Louisville, who that guy even was? Like, I bet you half of NFL fans don't even know who Jackson Dart is. And Shedeur Sanders is now standing this should motivate him to take his game to another level and try to silence the haters. But this has to be a humbling experience for him.
You would hope so. The other thing it does, if he does drop to the 3rd round, and as he drops tonight more and more, which it seems like it's going to keep happening here, it's taking money out of his pocket. And money's not a thing that he needs. Like, obviously, Deion has more than enough money. But the principle of it, right? Like, the fact that he's not going to be a guy, even in this league, if he does come in, he does get a chance to compete. If say the Browns pick him at the top of this 3rd round or something, and he has a chance to compete and has a chance to be a starter early on or whatever else, it's still like, that's something NFL locker rooms pay attention to. Like, everybody knows each other's salary. Everybody knows exactly what they're making. You see it on Hard Knocks. The rookies have to tell their signing bonus all the time and stuff like that. Like, the guys all are very aware of these things. And so Shedeur going from making what could have been a top 10 salary and the ego and everything that comes with that to making a 3rd round salary and stepping in and what that means. And just the stigma of being a 3rd round pick when you come into an organization, as you're saying, as well as you were saying as well, Mike.
Well, Schefter said if Pittsburgh doesn't take him in the 3rd round, he might not even go. Like, because here now you have another problem. This is a two-faced problem for Shedeur. Number one, you thought you were a top 10, top 20 pick. So you have all this expectations coming in. So you talk all the talk. You had your ego, and teams obviously showed they didn't want to put up with that then. But now, if you get drafted in the 3rd or 4th round somehow, you're the backup. You're not even going to be close to starting unless something happens to the starting quarterback. Are you going to have the right mentality day to day to accept your role and accept that you are just another person, that you are a nobody for the first time in your adult life? Like, you're not the star. You're not the high school star. You're not the college star. You're not the face. You are just another person. And will a team want to take on a guy that has that tremendous ego, that has all the fame and entourage around him? Is a team going to want to take on that type of problem as a backup quarterback? Teams like guys like Nathan Peterman and Mitch Trubisky as their backups. Why? Because they're silent and they just do what they're supposed to do, and you never hear from them. I think this is a bad dilemma for Shedeur, because not only are teams basically saying we don't buy into your talent and we don't think your talent is worth the problems, but the further you drop, then teams have to question, is it worth having this as a backup on our team?
Damn, it's true though. It's like, what? How much is it not worth the trouble? At what point is it not worth the trouble? And with Shedeur, everybody in the league has said it's not worth the trouble twice almost at this point. So I don't know if Pino Nino is being sarcastic or not, if he doesn't have an ego.
I hope that's sarcasm. I hope that ego is not mean. That is, everybody has an ego. When I was a sports anchor on TV, I had an ego.
I was gonna say having an ego is not a bad thing necessarily, but until it is harmful. Like having too big of an ego is the issue that it seems to have had. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is something that they're and as you said at the beginning too, it could be something that they're using him as an example here. And it could be because of the way Deion has acted throughout the process and everything else as well. And it could be a lot of different factors with NIL and just the culture around college football. There's a lot of there's a lot of ways this spins out that it affects Shedeur that isn't in.
This has to end up being Pittsburgh because they're going to get Rodgers and they're going to need somebody after him.
Having Shedeur and Aaron Rodgers is the funniest possible option.
It really is kind of funny if that ends up being the case, but that's how I feel like this is going to go. And really, what does it say? What does it say? The New York Giants took Jackson Dart. They said that the Cleveland Browns preferred Jackson Dart to Shedeur. The New Orleans Saints preferred Jackson Dart to Shedeur. What we're learning is perception amongst reporters and media does not equal reality inside NFL buildings. And this happens all the time, yet we're always surprised when it happens. Malik Willis was supposed to be a top 20 pick. And then Malik Willis went picked third round to the Tennessee Titans. And does it mean that Shedeur isn't a good player? No, I think he is a good player. But it shows that maybe the expectations were a little bit too high, a little bit too elevated. And obviously, what NFL teams saw versus what they thought they were going to have to take on didn't equal the risk. And it's ironic, too, because Shedeur and Cam Ward were working out during the offseason. They were kind of talking trash and joking around with each other. But Shedeur kept kind of telling Cam Ward that he thought he was so much better than him. And you think about that. Even in hindsight, that looks horrible. Like, it's okay to have confidence. You're Shedeur, and you're talking trash to the person that was picked number 1 overall in the entire NFL draft. And you're not even drafted 52 picks in. It shows a lack of awareness. And we got another comment. He was one of the best QBs in the nation, best completion rating, proven himself at every level. Does make sense. It makes a ton of sense. The NFL draft isn't based off of college stats. It's not based off of college stats. Josh Allen sucked in college, and now he's the MVP in the National Football League. It doesn't matter what you do on a college football field. It's how they project you in an NFL situation. Carolina's quarterback was unbelievable at Alabama. What has he done with the Panthers? Nothing. He was the number 1 overall pick. Justin Fields was amazing at Ohio State. What has he done with Chicago and Pittsburgh? Nothing. Sam Darnold was amazing at USC, and it took him 5 years to do anything in the NFL before he got to Minnesota. College stats don't matter. Teams do different things. There's differences between having a spread offense versus an NFL offense. You could have a high completion percentage by just throwing dump offs the whole time. You could throw little screens. Other quarterbacks are going down the field. Other teams have a lot of talent. Some teams have low-level talent. There's more variance in college. It is completely pointless talking about college numbers. Colin Cowherd always said he often likes the quarterbacks that have to deal with a lot of difficulties in college. They have to persevere and then lead their teams to wins. He'll tell you a lot of these quarterbacks that go to the blue chip schools, they have guys running wide open all the time. It's easy. If I'm playing at Ohio State, I could play quarterback at Ohio State. If I had 3 first-round pick wide receivers next to me all the time, I could just throw dump-offs all day and screens and anything, and they'll get yards after the catch. My numbers will look great. Does it mean I'm great? No, it means I have amazing talent around me. And Shedeur is amazing, and he did it at Colorado, which is a hard program to do it at. But we can't act like those stats would mean that he suddenly would be great in the NFL. I think the fact of it is Shedeur Sanders is probably a late first-round pick talent. He's a late first-round pick, early second-round talent who is now being penalized because of the perception surrounding him. And whether that's fair or not to him, it's a situation that he has to accept because he never did anything to silence it. He didn't need to show ego like his father. He's not his father.
If anything, he welcomed it.
That's the problem. Shedeur could have been his own person. He could have been like, my dad, primetime, great guy, like great player, Hall of Famer, on and off the field, love him. But I got to prove myself. I got to show what I am capable of. I have to be my own person. Shedeur was never like that. And I'm not saying not to be yourself, but NFL teams read into a lot of that stuff. And their takeaway was that Shedeur is entitled and that he thinks higher of himself than what they really believe he is as a quarterback at this point in time. I think he will get a shot one day to be a starter in the NFL, but I don't think that shot's happening this year. And unless somebody in front of him gets hurt or he lucks into a good situation, his path just got a lot more difficult because of who he is in his situation. Now, hopefully that humbles him. Hopefully that makes him work hard. If he humbles himself, he works hard, he goes out to prove people wrong, this could be the best thing that ever happened to him. Or he could be angry, continue to be entitled, and end up using this to have a lackluster NFL career. He has the ability to shut people like me up right now, shut up the NFL. And last thing I'll say about the situation, this is also the NFL saying, we think the current landscape of college football is a shit show.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And it's unfortunate if it's things that are, there is things that are in his control that have hurt him. And it's unfortunate if there are things that are out of his control that have hurt him. But it is what it is. Like you have to read the room too. If that was a risk in this way, this strategy that you had, then you should have been more prudent and you should have been more, and you should have acted more humble. But the fact is he wasn't. And that was the issue. He did fan the flame a lot. He walked too close to the sun a lot of the times. I think personally, I am in line with Pino Nino that I think he's good. I really thought Shedeur going throughout this whole process was worthy of a later first round pick. I really thought that he would go there to the Steelers at 21. There was a potential there. I really thought it was a potential the Giants were trading back in for them, even though it seemed like Dart was an option as well there. I think he's good. I think Cam Ward was definitely the better prospect, and that he is worthy of the number 1 overall pick. But this is a lot. It shows a lot of what the NFL wants from a guy. Like if he's going to lead the organization and step in and command the locker room, like maybe it's feedback from guys in the locker rooms and everything else too. You have to imagine putting Shedeur in that position right now with a high pick and everything else that's happened. So I like him. I think it's happened. It's gone too far maybe at this point. I feel like he should have gotten drafted by now, but I'm not surprised he dropped out of the first round. I'm not surprised he's still on the board here. But yes, respect out to you as well, my friend. I do think he gets drafted tonight.
We love having these conversations and being civil about it back and forth, and because there are different opinions to it. And I agree with AJ. It'd be a great story if he did make it. I hope he makes it because he is an exciting player. And whenever Sanders is good, it makes the NFL more interesting. So I do hope Shedeur ends up making it. And then another good point, Trey Amos is still on the board.
Wild, man.
Like let's just look at some of the guys still on this draft board at the current moment.
Yeah. Here, I can pull it up on. I'll pull it up on the screen in a second.
Yeah, pull that up. And Mike Green is still on board, which is unbelievable. There's still a lot of talent on this board at this point in time.
Yeah, I'm typing on the wrong computer. That'll do it. NFL draft best available. We got a full night. We're in sports heaven still at the moment here. Full night of playoff action right now. Both NBA playoff games are 1-point affairs. the Celtics and I almost said the Hornets for some reason. The Celtics and the Magic, it's 62-61 with 8 minutes left in the third quarter. The Celtics lead there. They're up 2-0 in that series. Indiana's up 29-28 early second quarter in Milwaukee. They're up 2-0 in that series. Later tonight, the Lakers and the Timberwolves will battle in Minnesota 1-1 there. I'll get the NHL scores here in a second. I feel like an old school radio host at this point, but we are in a marathon show here waiting for the Bills to go. So I feel like we're due for a Buffalo Freddy party rental score update here. We'll give our guy there that. And Capitals Canadiens 2-2 right now in the second period. Devils up 1-0 on the Hurricanes in the first period, and then the Kings and Oilers later tonight. Mike, I'm just going to run through all our ads here right now while we have a second here. Shout out to our sponsor, Buffalo Freddy Party Rental, the go-to location for all your party rentals. You got to get a hold of them now because stuff's booking up for the summer as we speak. It's time. Rent any inflatable between now through May 8th, 2025. That's only a couple weeks away, and you'll get a second inflatable of equal or lesser value for 50% off. Call 716-4FREDDY or text 716-260-5369 and mention the code "This Train Never Stops" to get that deal from Buffalo Freddy Party Rental. Shout out to them, and shout out also to our sponsor, Cellino Plumbing and HVAC. And they are one of our presenting sponsors tonight. And
this year's draft is filled with talent.
And James, these guys are number one in the number two business.
Looks like Cellino has made their pick.
That unit's not efficient.
So the AC unit?
Yeah, that's a safe pick.
That'll be our choice.
And Lucas from Cellino Plumbing has his first pick.
Thank you, Roger. With the first pick, Cellino Plumbing Heating and Cooling would like to select the 14-SEER AC unit with the free UV air filtration system.
No surprise with that pick, Rob.
You're right, James. I can only imagine how the fans in Buffalo are reacting to this.
Free UV light.
Wow.
And it's great for killing viruses and allergies.
We already had the best warranty in the industry.
Did they just throw a furnace through the table?
You've got to be kidding me.
For same-day professional service, call Cellino Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling at 68-FLUSH.
shout out to Cellino Plumbing and HVAC. Shout out to Buffalo Freddy Party Rental. We're back here for the home stretch. We got 17 picks at the moment till the Buffalo Bills are on the board. And let's look at this best available as we were
one of them was off the board
here.
Trey Harris, a wide receiver.
Wow, Trey. Oh, the Charger. That's getting some more weapons there for
I gotta say this too. That AJ, he needs the expert advice. He needs me to give him some insider stuff. That Cellino Plumbing commercial was amazing. The amount of effort and time into it, like I was just watching that in awe. So I'm not just saying that because they're a sponsor, but that was amazing watching that.
The production value is incredible. They really showed out for that. So shout out our sponsors. Shout out Cellino. Shout out to Buffalo Freddy. Yeah, it was great. So we got the board here. We got Mike Green, Darius Alexander, Siobhan Revel with injury concerns. We haven't even talked about his injury concerns. Obviously coming off that ACL. Seems like a lot of the guys that we're talking about here are just guys that had some injury question marks that are falling here, at least from that position there. Amos, what's good with Amos? What do you think is contributing to his drop? Yeah, I know. I would have been fine too. It's just kind of a little bit confounding here to see him still around. Shamar Turner, Jalen Noel, Kevin Winston. I love some Kevin Winston Jr. if they do want a safety. A lot of good receivers left here, though, and some good edge What are you thinking from this board so far that you're seeing left?
Yeah,
we still
so
have, obviously.
if we're just going talent, Mike Green is the best of the best right now.
The most talented.
And we were talking about like talent wise, like he would have been fine with the Bills at 30. So this is, I know there's some questions. Those must be serious because for him to drop where he is right now, teams have maybe some teams have just completely taken him off their draft board. We're talking about a guy that had 17.5 sacks last season at Marshall, was mocked in the top 15 of several mock drafts heading into the draft. Darius Alexander, tremendous back player at Toledo. We had him, I think, in our mock draft a week ago in the second round. But the Bills already got a D tackle, so that doesn't seem to be a likely scenario right now. Revel, again, another guy that I think we would have been fine at 30 if it ended up being the pick. Trey Amos, the same story. So now you're looking at this board, and edge stands out, wide receiver stands out. I think there's a lot of different ways you could go. I don't know if once you get to the point of 72, if maybe you take a chance on a guy like Mike Green if he's still available, just because you're like, you know what, the talent is too good to pass up at that point.
Or he might just be completely off their board, because I thought there was a real chance that they were coming up for him at 41, right? Like it was like, okay, this would make sense with the talent match.
This always brings up the moral, ethical dilemma type situation. Like, at what point are you willing to put your morals and character aside for talent? Like we've seen it with everybody before. Like Kansas City, they took Tyreek Hill. They knew what he did when he was younger. They brought back Kareem Hunt. They knew what he did. Kansas City still has guys on their team that have been having issues on and off the field. I'm not saying the Bills don't ever have guys that have issues either, but sometimes the talent is just too good to pass, and you take on the risk and you deal with it. Will that be the case with the Bills? Do they want to create an issue that they don't need to? We've seen in the past, at least the recent past, that they don't want problems. They like their close-knit locker room. So if Green really does have problems, maybe they'll stay away from him. But I do like the idea of edge or receiver at this point. There's a couple good guys in both those spots. I know Kyle Williams, Jalen Royals, those are probably two of the players that people are going to be talking about if they do go the receiver route. Could they get depth at another position? Absolutely. I don't think running back's in play. I don't think tight end would be in play. Obviously not quarterback. They could get depth on their offensive line if they wanted to. Is there any chance they could go a position like linebacker? Probably not with the way the board looks there. D tackle should be off the board right now, most likely. So it really my brain says edge or wide receiver. That's really what I'm thinking right now at this point in time.
Sorry, my guy. This is the Bears pick is in, and if you guys don't know, I live in Chicago, and this is my favorite wrestler on the planet, Seth Rollins, out there. Big Bears fan making the pick. So this is the big moment. I got hyped up seeing my guy Seth walk out there. Apparently, Seth was out there for when the Bears were supposed to make the pick earlier, and was a little upset when he found out that the Bills had traded up and he got scurried off stage and didn't know what was going on there, but. They're burning it down. And Wisconsin, too. I'm not listening. He's got to be healing it up right now, though, and talking some major junk right now to the Wisconsin faithful there as the Bears fan that he is. Seth Rollins, if you follow him on Twitter, you'll know if the Bears win or lose. Don't check the Score app. Don't check ESPN. He will just tweet, "I hate football" or "I love football." And there's been a lot of "I hate football" since I've been following Seth Rollins the last 10 years in the WWE, because the Bears have had their fair share of struggles. The Bears, interesting.
Seth just said Caleb Williams is undefeated at Lambeau Field.
Hey, it's just facts. Just facts. No shade, just facts. The Bears adding Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren. You know, I was shook by that, Mike, as a Penn State supporter and Michigan hater. Not happy about that. But then they add Luther Burden too. The Ben Johnson experiment this year. I don't know how it's going to look with this Bears team, but I'm excited. And they go Ozzy Trapilo here to add to that offensive line. Another option there. They have 2 starting tackles, but this could be a guy who ends up going in there for the Bears. I'm interested. I'm very intrigued by the Bears, by Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams. And, you know, now with that receiving core, you have DJ Moore, you have Roma Dunze, you have Luther Burden, you have Colston Loveland, you have Cole Kmet. That's a crazy receiving core. But can they keep Caleb Williams upright this year? Did they do enough in free agency? They did add to the offensive line, but it remains to be seen. You know, that's a really delicate thing to see. So I'm interested. That's obviously my subplot here in the Windy City to see what happens. It's going to be way more fun than last year, that's for sure. Last year was just depressing.
The NFC North is one of those interesting divisions. I look at the Bears and what they're building, and I'm like, they should be good in the near future. But then I'm like, well, Detroit is dominant. Minnesota was great. Green Bay is very good. And how does Chicago break through? So that's an interesting division. Because
it's going to be fun.
You could be a 13-12 win team and still be the second place team in that division. It almost happened. Detroit almost ended up not winning the division because of how hot Minnesota was down the stretch. So that's definitely a fun league, kind of the opposite of the AFC East. But I hope the AFC East obviously stays the way it is with the Bills just running things. I hope that continues going forward. But we're getting closer. We're about 15 picks away, Jake.
Speaking of the AFC East, a little fun news, not draft-related news. Did you see the NFL rivalries announcement tonight, Mike?
I did hear about it. I don't know too much about it, but it has something.
Well, they haven't really exactly. They haven't really explained too much exactly what it's going to be. But from what I've gathered, yes, it does have to do with uniforms. This year, the AFC East and the NFC West will be the first 2 divisions. And so Nike is going to create what they said are unique, cutting-edge jerseys with a nod to the team's history for divisional matchups for that year for those 2 divisions. So it'll be like a rotating basis. So every 4 years you would essentially have the rivalries jerseys. And so when the Bills play the Patriots, the Jets, the Dolphins this year, whatever those alternate jerseys they are that they're creating here, that are just going to be added into their set, they will wear for all those matchups. And then the NFC West, San Francisco, Seattle, Arizona, and Los Angeles, the Rams, when they all play each other, they will do the same. So an interesting concept. It's fun. It'll be fun to see a new jersey, and you would think that this could be the opportunity for the NFL to make like a modern throwback with a red helmet that could make fans happy here in the last season at Highmark Stadium, obviously. But Mike, I do have to caution all fans right now. I need to take this space here. Nike, if you are an NBA fan, they have been doing this similar thing with their jerseys where they do a new jersey every year. It hasn't been good. I'm just going to say overall, I would give it like the whole experiment, like a C- D+. The jersey, like they just get too crazy. Jerseys should be, so you could make a lot of alternate jerseys that are simple and effective. Nike seems to do a little bit too much. Now they've had some hits. Don't get me wrong. They've had some great stuff. But they've had a lot of misses too. So I'm intrigued, but I'm wary because I don't want this to be an opportunity for Nike to just make some like insane looking Bills jersey or any team jersey. You know what I mean? I want it to still look classic, whatever they try to do here. But it'll be exciting to see. And obviously, whatever jersey gets announced for the Bills, there's gonna be a million Josh Allen ones sold throughout that next year. And I'm interested to see what they look like. Maybe a Navy element. Who knows? It'd be interesting. But that's kind of the whole ordeal with the NFL rivalries breakdown from what I've gathered so far. So I'm interested. I'm always down to see new aesthetic, new marketing stuff. You got to keep it fresh. All these leagues, honestly.
Yeah, it's the jersey game is always interesting. I used to care more about that type of stuff when I was younger. I really don't care as much about it now as I used to. Whatever they're wearing, I'm going to support. I'll root on. I like the Bills' current jerseys. I think their combos are pretty sweet the way they currently have it. I would love to see the red helmet one day, but that seems like that might. Who knows when that'll ever happen? It sounds like some point in time we'll see it again.
Truly, I feel like they're just going to switch the set when they go to the new stadium and make it the red helmet, and that's why they've been holding off. Yeah, and I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like, why not? New stadium, new jerseys makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
like rather than carrying over the old ones. So everybody's like, "Oh, why aren't they doing it? Why aren't they doing it?" That would be the reason they're not doing it, because they've been just waiting till the stadium opened.
So the Raiders are picking right now. Could this be a Shedeur Sanders point?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, yeah.
This could be the spot. Behind Geno, developed for a couple years. I'm waiting. I'm waiting to hear.
Nope. I guess I'm a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for just killing all the suspense there, Jake. Thanks for ruining it for me.
Now I know.
Let's circle back, because when we made the decision to keep going, it felt like everything was moving by quickly. And now I feel like we have frozen in time, and these next 13 picks are probably going to take forever to get here.
Okay.
So let's talk about TJ Sanders a little bit. Let's round back to the Bills' second round pick, Sanders. We already gave some thoughts on him and how we feel about the pick. Where do you think he fits on the Bills' defense as a rookie? Is he going to be an instant contributor, or do you think he'll be a small rotational piece early on?
I mean, I guess the larger question is, who's going to get more reps, him or Dwayne Carter? That's who that's who we have to look out for, right? Like this is not saying that Carter can't have a role as well next to him, but if you're a third round pick and you see a guy the next year get drafted in the second round, you got to be worried a little.
Traded
up to get him, yes. Exactly.
I think that's the message that we have to take away from this.
Mm-hmm.
This is an indictment on Dwayne Carter, but it doesn't mean that he can't do it, because Larry Ogunjobi will be out the first 6 games and he's on a 1-year contract. So Dwayne Carter will still have plenty of opportunities.
Plenty of chances.
But sure. This is definitely, I take this as an indictment on Carter.
Yeah, and the fact that they can't trust him at this point, right? Like, maybe he can have a role, but they need somebody to step in and have a role this year. And so, to answer your original question, yeah, I think the plan is to have Sanders to have a role and probably be the first rotational guy in for Oliver or a Daquan Jones, and then maybe by the end of the year, depending on how they use him, maybe he's starting next to Oliver. Maybe he's still the third rotational guy when Ogunjobi comes back, and maybe Ogunjobi is the starter next to Oliver. Maybe they're just rotating everybody and he gets a good, a majority of the snap percentage. But I would imagine that, like you said, you don't trade up for him and you don't redress that position after drafting another guy day 2 the previous year if you don't expect him to have some sort of role on this team. And we've talked about they need guys to step in like that. This is a team ready to win now. So yeah, I don't think they go up and get him if they don't think he's going to at least, be in their rotation going into this year. So it's a lot of pressure, but he's not going to have to start. He's not going to have to. And by the time Ogunjobi and Height are back, he's not going to even have to really play more than 50% of the snaps if they don't want him to. You would hope that he will. You hope that he just is a game wrecker, right? Now, is he a guy when you were just looking at doing your quick overview there and everything else, and I didn't get a chance to do this, and I'll look some up more. But is he a guy that's played multiple positions at college? Was a guy that played across the different techniques, or was he primarily playing one or three or anything specifically? Was there anything you saw regarding that? I just can't remember off the top of my head.
Let's just go over college numbers. The guy had 18.5 tackles for loss, and I believe he had around 9.5 sacks during his college career. This is a guy that can get to the quarterback. He can get in the backfield, and he can make plays. And it fits what the Bills have historically told you what they want out of defensive tackle when they draft a guy. They want a guy that can penetrate, that can make plays. So you already have Oliver, who has the ability to do that, and now you get Sanders, who should have the ability to do that as well. AJ now making fun of me because earlier I'm talking about the quarterback stats not mattering, and now AJ saying college stats don't matter. Unbelievable. Good friend. He's a troll. Unbelievable troll. Thank you, AJ, for watching. And people that don't know, he's a good friend of mine, but he also likes to get under my skin. He does like to pick. But just talking about him as a player, he can get after the quarterback. I think what this says is he's going to be a healthy part of the Bills rotation. He'll start up as a backup, and then depending on how things go, he'll probably earn a chance to get a higher percentage of snaps as the year goes on. And obviously you get a guy early in the second round because you eventually see him having a prominent role on your team. So I'm wait and see with so many of these guys. I'm not going to say, oh my God, he's going to get 6 sacks as a rookie. Like, I don't think that way. It's the same reason why I don't kill Keon Coleman after a rookie year where he had 29 catches for 556 yards and I don't know, less than a handful of touchdowns.
No, for sure.
It's because we don't know what he's going to be next year or the year after. Everybody tries to make these proclamations after 1 year watching 2 years of college tape. Like, do we not learn from anything? If we would have based everything off of college tape, Josh Allen should have been a parody of a prospect. He should have been a joke in the NFL. But guys develop. You get people that have intangibles, that they have measurables, and you try to see what you can do with it. I think Sanders is a guy that is an intriguing prospect. What we can say about both of the Bills' picks so far are that they are guys that were in the discussion entering the draft amongst the top players in their positional groups that both offered intriguing traits to work with. Now, will they work out? I can't tell you that one way or another. I can't tell you that Maxwell Harrison is going to be a great corner. I can't tell you if TJ Sanders will be a good defensive tackle, but I can see the logic in what Brandon Beane is trying to accomplish. Now, there's going to be plenty of people that will say, well, maybe he could have fallen to 56. Why did they have to reach and give up 109 and then trade down from 62 to 72? I'll just put it like this. They put a lot of time and effort into it. They have scouts that watch all their games. They watch all the film. They talk to the prospects. They know what they're trying to do defensively. They know their scheme. They have the coaches involved. They know the personalities. And then they put all that information together. They talk it over, and they make the decision that they think is best for their organization. Sometimes it's based on short term. Sometimes it's based on long term. And they weigh all the factors, and they make a decision. And sometimes they get it right. Sometimes they get it wrong. Sometimes they miss by a ton. Sometimes they get it right and they hit a home run. We act like every time they get a wrong pick, they're idiots, or every time they get a right pick, they're geniuses. It's like it's throwing darts at a dartboard. We really don't know. We don't know. And we like to complain and bitch as fans. We don't have any clue how these guys will pan out.
Exactly. Yeah. And neither does Brandon Beane. He has an idea. He has an idea of what the plan that they can put them on to the player that they can hope they can be. But it's all their educated guesses as well on here. they're hoping that they can get guys into their system and they can produce. They don't and find a role. It's all circumstantial. Fit is so important. Everything else. I want to give let's get some background here. Shout out to the Shout Pod, Matt Perino, Ryan Talbot, and their Shout text group, and just some of the stuff from the Zoom coverage or the Zoom interview. Some of the coverage from the Zoom interview with TJ Sanders. He said that he feels like they liked his tape during the pre-draft visit. Feels comfortable around 300 to 305 pounds, but feels like he can move up to 310. He also is a guy that feels like he'd play all over the defensive line. Enjoys tackles for losses as much as sacks. So I'm sure the Bills love that with the run defense aspect here. And that's one of the first things I see in a lot of the breakdowns of him is how much of a plus run support. And that we obviously talked about his stats in college there as well. His top attributes, he has a nonstop mentality. We love that here at Trainwreck Sports here. Red flag, not a blue cheese guy. That at this point, he's got to learn though. He's got to learn.
Like, we still joke about that.
It's funny that it's it's a question every.
I thought that was funny.
Draftee.
I thought it was funny 3 years ago. I can't not to criticize whoever asked it, but
and also just a quick breakdown of him here from Lance Zierlein from NFL.com. Sanders, a powerful roadblock with heavy hands and a strong core, rarely touches the ground. Lack of knee bend. He usually gives better than he gets, and blockers have a hard time keeping him sealed. He punches and locks quickly with a twitchy shed to tackle a gap over. His rush features average first step quickness, but sudden hand swipes and play through power in his lower half opens pathways to the pocket. Sanders' blend of power and pressure put him on the board for odd and even fronts as a potential 3-down solution. So I like the versatility that I hear that he thinks he has and that the draft experts think he has. Who did Mike Green go to?
Yeah, you're not going to like this. I don't like it.
Baltimore's draft. I don't like it because I like Baltimore getting Malachi Starks and Mike Green. This would have been a dream draft for the Bills.
This is what I hate. We always talk about Buffalo getting good guys, culture guys. And then Baltimore's like, screw it. Mike Green's available to us at 60. We're going to get the Sun Belt Player of the Year who had 17.5 sacks last year, who was a top 20 talent in this draft. After adding Malachi Starks, who was a top 20 talent in this draft late in the first round. This is what annoys me. Like, teams like Kansas City don't give a crap about the rap sheet. Baltimore doesn't care about the rap sheet. They want the talent. I'm not criticizing the Bills draft. It annoys me. I get tired of maybe there are problems, but if we're playing Baltimore next year and he has like 9 sacks on the season, we're gonna be like, God, this isn't a Bills thing; it's a Baltimore thing.
Man, yeah, I agree.
I'm sorry for money. I get so annoyed. Like, here's the thing, and you can criticize me for this if you want. I am a guy that when you are running a football team, you are trying to get the best collection of talent possible. And yes, culture matters. Yes, you want guys that are good on and off the field. But what certain teams show, like Kansas City, is like if you have the right collection of guys, you can withstand a bad character or someone that has done things questionably in the past. And I don't think Kansas City regrets Tyreek Hill or some of the other players that they've had, Kareem Hunt and so forth. And I don't know, it's tough when you get morals involved with football, because I think you could go to a lot of players and have questions about what they did in college and what they do off the field. But I hate seeing a guy like Mike Green go to a team like Baltimore after they got Malachi Starks. I don't like seeing that. To me, Baltimore just got 2 top 25 talents without even picking in the top 25.
Yeah, I agree. and sometimes you have to take swings on those guys, and hope that you can, especially when you, as the Bills would say, that they have a culture already built around it. Sometimes that when you already have the culture built, you bring them in and hope that the culture can affect them positively, right? Like you hope that it's built so much, the infrastructure is that you can change that person and do whatever it is. Another example of a team that's done this before, the New England Patriots, who Bill Belichick was never afraid to take a swing on a guy who his value had dropped for one reason or another off the field, or whatever it may be, or maybe just prickly in the locker room or anything else. Yeah, Trey Amos, Washington. I mean, I saw him mocked to Washington as a first round pick. So them getting him in the second round, they got to feel good about that, Mike.
Yeah, that's crazy. I thought he was going to go. I had mocked to Buffalo at 30. He went 61. So I wasn't even close to that. That's crazy. I thought he was I remember in the early draft process, people were like, no way he falls to the Bills at 30. Well, he fell to 61. So just tells you how much people know when they go in the drafts. As much as like you want to believe what you read in the media, everything in the mock draft season, the pre-draft process, it's all guesswork. It just exposes how little we all actually know about what we're talking about.
Absolutely. Putting Trey Amos as a comparison to Pat Surtain seems a little bit much as at pick 61 in the draft, but I'll let that slide for now. The Bears already got their pick in here, and we're 10 picks away from the Buffalo Bills in the third round here. I'm excited. This is
let's go over the best available again, because let
me get it back up here. Let me get the list back up here. And while I'm doing that, let's take a break and get a word from our sponsors at Cellino.
This year's draft is filled with talent.
And James, these guys are number one in the number two business.
Looks like Cellino has made their pick.
That unit's not efficient.
So the AC unit?
Yeah, that's a safe pick.
That'll be our choice.
And Lucas from Cellino Plumbing has his first pick.
Thank you, Roger. With the first pick, Cellino Plumbing Heating and Cooling would like to select the 14-seer AC unit with the free UV air filtration system.
No surprise with that pick, Rob.
You're right, James. I can only imagine how the fans in Buffalo are reacting to this.
Free UV light.
Wow.
And it's great for killing viruses and allergies.
We already had the best warranty in the industry.
Did they just throw a furnace through the table?
You've got to be kidding me.
For same-day professional service, call Cellino Plumbing Heating and Cooling at 68 Flush.
So we're getting closer, Jake. Around 10 picks away from the Bills' third selection in this draft. Still a lot of good players available. I know you might have the list. What are you thinking at this point in time? A couple of the higher talented players just off the board in Trey Amos and Mike Green. You still have some talent at the top. Darius Alexander, defensive tackle from Toledo. Shedeur Sanders, who obviously the Bills aren't going to consider. If you go to I'm pretty sure. You got Kevin Winston Jr. from Penn State still on the board. Could he be an option at safety? Landon Jackson out of Arkansas on edge. This is getting to Jalen Royals and Kyle Williams territory. I think wide receiver, edge, safety, those are possibilities at this point.
I think I want an edge at this point. I think I want them to go edge. And I think Landon Jackson, he wasn't one of my favorite prospects coming into the process, but they've loved him. They've clearly put a lot of work in on him. Wouldn't mind them taking a swing at an edge. I wouldn't mind them doubling up at defensive tackle. I could see them doing it. I mean, that would be really an indictment on on Dwayne Carter, but they can still afford to get younger everywhere. I think on this defensive line. I don't think they will. I don't think they're going to touch safety. I think that that's the one I would be the most shocked by. I think edge and that or wide receiver is
okay.
But I think edge is the most likely scenario here.
If you had the pick right now with who's left, who are you taking?
Who am I taking? Oh, I'm probably taking with who's left. I'm probably taking Jalen Noel.
You just said edge, and then you took a wide receiver.
I said that I think they're going to do edge.
Okay.
I think I would take Jalen Noel. I'm not a big fan of Landon Jackson, to be honest. And just the reason that he is the prospect that he is just not the story, not the narrative, not the build that I like to hear. Josiah Stewart's an interesting option there if they want to go there, but I feel like these are guys I wouldn't want. I would trade back a little bit longer. We're getting into that range, but maybe it is a spot where you get it. Noel is a guy that I liked as a potential option at 62 if they were going to go wide receiver. Same with Kyle Williams, same with Jalen Royals out of these three, but Noel I liked both of the Iowa State receivers coming into this draft. So Noel's still up the top of that board there. Shamar Turner just went to the Chicago Bears to take him off the board here. I'll refresh this. It might have just popped up. So I think I want a wide receiver at this point, just because of what's on the board. I think the Bills will take an edge and stick to the plan here. What do you think? What do you think about the guys left here?
So I would go I'm fine with edge or receiver personally. Noel, Royals, Williams, all are intriguing to me at receiver. I think all of those are intriguing guys. Now, you mentioned Noel, just reading a little bit about him. 4.38, 40-yard dash. Impresses on tape. Good with the deep ball. Takes the top off the covers. That sounds like something the Bills were missing last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're
feels like it's the one element we're looking for here.
Yeah, we're at pick 63. Will he fall to 72? I don't know. Edge is interesting to me because I think we all acknowledge the Bills could be better at edge. But are they bad at edge?
I was going to say they're not bad. And Rousseau, there's a world where you can convince me Greg Rousseau takes another leap next year. He's still so young, man.
This is the tough part. So the Bills offense scored 30 points a game last year, so they were good. But if we're being real, the Bills receiving core is worse on paper than their edge rushers. You have Rousseau and Joey Bosa. Those are both good players. Now, are either of them great or elite? Probably not, but they're both good. I would say they're both in the above average category. Rousseau has the ability to be very good. Some people will say he already is very good. Now, elite, I wouldn't put him there. Joey Bosa at one point was elite, but health concerns was always a problem. Behind them, you have AJ Epineza. He's okay. He's not good. He's okay. You can get by with him as a backup. You have Hoyt, who is intriguing for his versatility. And then you have Javon Solomon, who late round pick, but has some skill. So you got 5 players there. So if you select an edge in the 3rd round, that guy is going to make the roster. That I wouldn't be against having 6, but you're basically, you better select someone that's going to actually be able to see the field and contribute. Receiver is an interesting one. Does anybody think the Bills have great receivers?
No.
Josh Palmer's.
You'd be lying if you tell me that.
Yeah,
that's right.
Josh Palmer's all right. I think he's going to be good. I think that Khalil Shakir is a good slot receiver. I think Khalil Shakir could be a great slot receiver, but he's a slot. Keon, he left a lot to be desired last year. I'm not giving up on him, but I don't think he's there yet. I don't know if he'll ever be what some people are hoping out of him. And then you got Curtis Samuel, who was injured for part of the season and never really came onto his own until the end, but was good in the last couple of games of the season. If you can get a guy like Jalen Noel who could be speed, get over the top, that might be the element you're missing. Now, the question is, maybe they think Josh Palmer is that guy. Maybe they don't think they need to draft that. I would be willing to take a chance on that on the third round. I don't think the holes on the Bills roster are significant really at any position right now. So when I'm looking at the third round pick, what I'm basically saying is we're not getting starter here, or at least most likely not getting a starter. Where do we have a position where we can improve our depth while also getting someone who has the potential to contribute this year? And I think wide receiver is a spot that could happen, especially depending on what happens with Curtis Samuel going forward. So I like your reasoning, and I would definitely be open to wide receiver at this pick at 72.
Yeah, we shall see. As we're talking through there, the Kansas City Chiefs selected the defensive tackle Norman Lott from the Tennessee Volunteers. So the Chiefs here in this draft addressing both the offensive and defensive lines in the first two rounds makes a lot of sense for what their issues were last year as a team, that to just reinforce the trenches there. The Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock here to end round 2. And then we'll be we're 8 picks away from the Bills coming up, hopefully here at 72.
Jay, can you filter safety and edge?
I would
edge
love
receiver?
to. What should we start with? You want to start with edge?
Start with edge, then go wide receiver, and then we can go to safety after that.
Beautiful. So we got Birch. Jordan Birch is an interesting prospect. But the thing with Jackson here is I feel like they love the arm length with Jackson. Josiah Stewart. Swinson is an interesting prospect as well. Jack Sawyer is a guy who's got a great motor from Ohio State. What are you looking at here with the edge prospects? Anything in particular?
So a lot of these guys are possibilities. I think Birch, Jackson, Stewart, all in play. Jackson, you mentioned they've had the conversations with him, prototype it according to what AJ was saying. I think Jackson makes a lot of sense based on what they're looking for. If I was to make a prediction, I'm probably going Landon Jackson at this point. But I kind of want the receiver because of it's a little bit more appealing or exciting position. But how often does that actually work out? So I think the closer we get to 72, I'm just gonna convince myself that Landon Jackson is gonna be the pick.
There is another guy up here that would fit the mold of a troubled player who if they want to take a swing on, and that would be Isaiah Bond. In a similar vein, it's not something I would do, but I have to mention it because it's a guy who was literally in the building with the Bills, was a first-round prospect, and then had some issues and allegations come out through the process, and now obviously still on the board here, late going into the third round. So obviously could be an opportunity there. But we talked about Noel, we talked about Royals, we talked about Williams at the receiver. I like Torrey as well. Torrey Horn was a receiver at Colorado State. Let's go to the safeties here, because there is a name. I like Kevin Winston a lot. I like Billy Bowman, and I like Xavier Watts too. I really like those 3 guys at the top. I don't know much about Sanker, the guy stuck in between there. Jalen Reed was really good last year too from Penn State. I like both the Penn State safeties. I'm biased there too. But I think if they want to address safety, this board looks pretty nice for them, where they could get a guy that I think has a lot of upside. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, there's definitely some guys left now with the pick swap in the later rounds. Who we'll see how that impacts them. There's some good guys if they want to go safety at 72. And like I said, I think safety, edge, receiver, they all make sense at this point in time. Knowing how we talked about defensive line the entire offseason, it feels like edge is going to be the pick. But and you can't really argue with that if they go that route. It would show that they basically wanted to get experience at it, but then fill it with youth as well, doubling down on that. It shows that they know they need to improve in the trenches to get to where they eventually want to be. Why did Philadelphia win the Super Bowl? Because they dominated Kansas City in the trenches. What happens when the Bills play Kansas City? They don't do anything defensively in the trenches. So this would be a sign as much as any that we need depth, we need a plethora of guys, and we need to acknowledge that you don't go through an entire NFL season healthy. And if a guy or two go down, we need to have other options that can step up. So I definitely think we could be looking at a situation where edge could be in play. And, if they end up going corner, tackle, edge, it's not going to be exciting to a lot of Bills fans. But it would show that
I'll be excited.
It would show that they acknowledge that they realize their defense is what let them down last year. And as long as they have Josh Allen at quarterback, they can get by with lesser talent surrounding him as long as they have a good offensive line and decent run game. And basically what they're saying is we identified, and this is an important point too. What did they do this offseason? They signed 3 defensive players to long-term extensions. Greg Rousseau, Christian Benford, Terrell Bernard. So you signed your linebacker, that is the guy that runs the defense, the captain of the defense. You signed your great defensive end to a long-term contract. Good run defender, able to generate some pressure. And then your corner, Christian Benford. So 3 different areas of the defense you basically identified, and you said these are the key players that are going to be leading our defense in the future. So what do you have to do now that you paid those guys the money? You need cheap talent to go along with it that is going to be good, but developing and also playing at a high level. That's where the draft comes in. So it kind of you sign your extensions, but then you need to supplement that talent with young, cheap talent. So it makes sense that they're investing on all this defense. And now a good pick here by the Giants to start the 3rd round, and Darius
Alexander.
So that's a nice pick by New York. And here we are, 3rd round. Shedeur is still on the board. Who would have ever thought that a week ago, heading into the NFL draft? This is crazy.
It's absurd. I could see it at Cleveland at 67. I could see it at Cleveland at 67. But let's take a quick score update on behalf of our sponsors here, Buffalo Freddy, Party Rental in the NHL. Montreal up 4-3, Mike, on the Capitals here. They've battled back. They're on the power play right now in the 3rd period. And the Devils still leading 1-0 over the Hurricanes. The Magic up by 4 on the Celtics with only 6 minutes left in the 4th quarter. And the Bucks and Pacers are tied at 62 with 8 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. So the NBA world, close games on the Eastern Conference side there. And then Lakers, Timberwolves later tonight, along with Kings and Oilers. And that is on behalf of Buffalo Freddy, Party Rental. Rent any inflatable item booked between now and through May 8th, 2025, and get a second inflatable of equal or lesser value, 50% off. Mentioning the code "This Train Never Stops" when you call 716-4-FREDDY or text 716-260-5369. Visit us at buffalofreddy.com. And we are 5 picks away as Ashton Gillette, one of those edge options we were looking at there from Louisville, gets taken by the Kansas City Chiefs here at the top of the 3rd round. So the Chiefs again addressing the line, the defensive line here on day 2, drafting a defensive tackle a couple picks ago, going defensive end here. Cleveland, Vegas. We've been talking about Shedeur. You just mentioned him now. If he's gonna go, man, these are 2 potential big spots right here. You would think, right? Like these are 2 teams that we heard him connected to for the whole process.
The question is,
pick is in for the Browns. The pick is in for the Browns right away.
Do either of these teams want that headache?
The Browns, both of these teams are crazy enough to do it.
I'm going to say that neither are going. I'm going to say neither are going to do it. The
Okay.
Browns.
I think that's a prudent thing at this point.
The Browns have Flacco and they have Pickett. Now Shedeur could sell tickets, but I don't know. That's
Jimmy Haslam's not a smart man. I just know that.
You know, it would be a Cleveland thing for them to get Shedeur Sanders, but I don't think that would be good for either the team or the player.
Or Sanders, not at all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that would be a horrible situation for both. I don't like the Raiders situation either, although it is better than Cleveland. You have Geno Smith, who's established. Pete Carroll likes Geno. He would stick with Geno for a couple years, you would think. Give Shedeur some time to learn and be a backup. But then also playing in the city of Las Vegas. I don't know if that's the best place to develop as a young player. So, oh, cool, AJ. I'm glad that you're hoping for Ladd McConkey at 72. Got some jokes for us today. But yeah, this is right now. I just want these picks to speed through. I just need to get to that Bills pick at 72, and then we can talk a little bit about it, and then I can refresh for my 11:30 podcast with Pat Moran.
Pat, our guy. Yeah, I saw that.
4 hours yesterday of continuous live stream. Today we're at 1 hour and 48 minutes, so I'm almost at 6 hours the last 2 days.
Right, man.
So now I know what it's like to have like a daily radio show. The difference is a radio show has like 20 plus minutes of commercials every hour, and we just talk continuously, nonstop the entire time.
Just keep rolling.
Yeah. So
and it's been a great time, and we've got almost we're at 90, almost 9,300 people coming along this journey with us tonight. So thank you to everybody tuning in on all our various platforms. AJ has a question for me. Jake, did you like the Kincaid pick? Wow, I got to go back to my brain.
He's asking about things 2 years ago, Jake.
2000. So the 2023 NFL draft. I want to say I was fine with it, but I wasn't like in love with it. That's my honest opinion on it. I was very much team. I'm trying to look at the draft to remember who some guys are that I was really obsessed with in this process. Joey Porter Jr. was definitely one of them. Would have loved them to go in that route. And it was just wide receiver. It was wide receiver, and Kincaid was. I wanted them to get a weapon offensively, so I wasn't opposed to Kincaid. And I didn't like prefer Laporta or anything in particular over him. I would have been fine with either of those options. So yeah, I think I was fine with it. But Joey Porter Jr. Was definitely the guy I wanted them to go get, and it was completely biased because obviously my Penn State ties there. But he also, I think, would have been a great fit. Would have avoided a Nashville Harrison pick this year because he's a great cornerback in the NFL. Mike, did you enjoy that? Oh, Harold Fannin Jr.
Wait, I'm trying to see. Okay, Bowling Green, some Mackey.
Yeah,
and
he was a Mackey finalist.
One of the best tight ends in the nation this year. Over 100 catches, dynamic receiver, exciting player, very exciting
Joe
player.
Flacco's got weapons.
Keeping him
Good
keeping
for
him in
him.
Ohio, in the state of Ohio. Bowling Green, we all know, not that far away from Cleveland, Toledo area. That's exciting. I'm excited to see Harold Fannin Jr. be a Cleveland Brown, and he's already used to wearing the orange, white, and brown because those are the Bowling Green colors.
They just wear the Browns jerseys.
Literally,
They
he
really
doesn't even
do.
need a Browns jersey. He can just wear his Bowling Green attire for Cleveland. They won't know the difference. So that's exciting. I love that pick. That's one of my favorite picks of this draft so far. Not because of the fit, not because of the talent, but just because he doesn't need to change his uniform going to the pros. So, and think about it, the Browns have already drafted an Ohio State running back, so they must love the talent, the college talent in the state of Ohio, which is either a master strategy or a strategy that's going to continue losing for several seasons to come, depending on how you look at it. Okay, as far as would I rather have Fannin Jr. or Kincaid? I'd rather have Kincaid right now, but I like Fannin, and I think he has the potential to be an impact player. We'll see how it all pans out. I liked the Kincaid pick. Did I love it? I don't know if I loved it. I liked it a lot. Like, I would say I would have thought it was a pick that made sense. I want to see what the Raiders do right here. All right. Well, I'm gonna wait. They're still not at the pick yet, but yeah, I like the Kincaid pick. Has he lived up to my massive expectations of him? No, but he's still averaging something like 55 receptions a year the first 2 years of his career as a tight end. Like, that's good production. He's a good player. He just hasn't been great, which I think we all had that expectation of him being an elite tight end pretty quickly in his career. 72 catches or whatever it was, 70 plus catches as a rookie is really, really good. Just that we were comparing him to Laporta, who had an unreal, maybe the best rookie tight end season we've ever seen. And then Kincaid has a drop off this year. And now we're already talking like, oh, this guy is a waste of a pick. No, he wasn't a waste of a pick. He's been a good component on a great offense the last 2 years. Let's see what he does next season. Let's see what he does 2 years from now. If he continues putting 40 catches a year the next couple of years, I'm going to be a little disappointed. If he rebounds this next season, goes 70 catches for 875 yards and 7 touchdowns, I'm going to be like, okay, it's the pick's working out. So I know what AJ's trying to do there, Jake. So he's trying to get on my skin.
Specifically going back to that draft, I'm looking at where the picks fell, and it was Smith and Jigba, Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, all back to back. I would have preferred them to just take a swing on one of those guys in the moment, probably, and who knows. But there's a whole lot of dig stuff that gets mentioned with that, where they probably just didn't want to bring in a first-round wide receiver into that dynamic, knowing what we know now. So bringing in Kincaid was kind of a way to do that. But Smith and Jigba was probably the guy, if I were to go back, who I would have loved out of that process. I thought he was absolutely incredible at Ohio State. What is John Cena doing here? What is the last real world champion?
The last undisputed champion.
The last undisputed champion ever. He must be talking some junk. Oh, who's he seeing? He's a Boston guy as the Patriots pick is in here. As we're 3 picks away. Oh, Idris Elba's here now. I do love some Idris Elba. Oh, so we're past the point where we don't need them to announce selections the whole time. We're just waiting to pop up on the screen now. Is that what we're doing? Oh, you know what they're doing? They've got a movie coming out on Prime Video where John Cena is the president of the United States and Idris Elba is the prime minister of the UK, and it's like an action buddy cop movie. I'm very excited about it, actually.
I hope you're being sarcastic.
I am. I will watch it, but I'm not that excited about it. I'll watch it like on a Saturday morning when I'm like making breakfast and getting ready for the day, pretty much. Okay.
All right, so that takes off one of the guys that we.
I hate how much I like the Patriots offseason. I really do.
The Patriots, we almost have Maniac here, which means he's going to go on right when the Bills are picking.
All right, right, we're into the atrium here at KeyBank Center. Bandits are on to the semifinals. 5 goals total. We got some friends here. Let's go. Oh, look at that.
Oh, there we are.
The purple people eaters right there. The racks people. I like that. Real quick, obviously I know Bills are on the clock. I don't want to ruin it. They didn't even score the entire second half. Has to be the first time in NLL history a team won without scoring in the second half. I see you guys doing numbers. Good night now.
Have a good one, man.
Shout out Banditland. Energy is great in downtown Buffalo right now at the KeyBank. What a time to be alive. What a time to be a fan of Buffalo sports. We're 2 picks away here. Shedeur, could he go at 71 to New Orleans?
I don't
It's
know.
possible.
What if he doesn't even go today? What if somehow he falls?
What if he goes undrafted? What if they just don't draft him? It would be like absurd. I mean, this is crazy at this point. Oh, that's right. They drafted that. Thank you, AJ. I forgot they drafted.
Come on, Jake. Come on, Jake.
Yeah, I missed pick 40. Damn it. I do remember it. I remember seeing him going. Wow, this is bad. Poor guy. I mean, he's set for life, but this is can't be fun. Can't be fun. Okay.
It is interesting how they're having this draft in Green Bay, and you have a historic stadium, and it's obviously outside of the stadium. It's weird looking at this draft. It's basically just in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
And like if the Bills got the draft, I know they would put it near the stadium. You kind of just wish they would put it near City Hall. Like,
yeah, I know, just to have some visuals of it.
Or
No,
like,
I
have something
drove
at like Canal Side or something, which I know would be chaotic for traffic and everything. But like it does, watching this draft, make me wish that if we did get it, it wouldn't be at the stadium.
I was in Wisconsin last weekend and drove through Green Bay to get up there. And it really is just like, I love Wisconsin. It's a great state. There's a lot of great things. It really is just a lot of farms. And then you kind of get to Green Bay, and Green Bay's really not that big. Like, in Milwaukee's really not that big. Like, they're not that. Milwaukee is like almost like
Milwaukee probably like Milwaukee is the city that gets screwed over because Green Bay just so happened to get like an NFL team from like
exactly
the beginning
for sure.
Periods. Like,
yeah,
Milwaukee, like it really should be their team. But like they did the split for all those years, and then they're like, and they're like, well, it was Green Bay's team. We got to keep it in Green Bay. Like, I get it, but like, could you imagine like living like 2 hours away and like having to make that drive every Sunday? It's funny. Like, Milwaukee's closer to Chicago than it is Green Bay, I believe. So
it is.
It's an interesting dynamic.
Well, that's why like once you start getting to like the line there is a lot of Bears contingent in the southern Bears contingent / Illinois Packers contingent as you start to mesh towards like the northern Illinois border and everything. There's a lot more Illinois, like people from Chicago who are Packers fans and vice versa than people think. I said it was akin to like
there was a lot of Bears fans.
I think it is it's not completely akin to like, like a White Sox Cubs situation here, but it is a very like split city thing here when that game happens. It's like you'll see Bears and Packers stuff all over the place in Chicago. It's crazy.
And shout out to the more than 10,000 people that have tuned in tonight, right as the Bills get ready for their pick.
Hell yeah.
At 72, the Saints pick is already in, which means the Bills are officially on the clock. We've talked about possibilities. Obviously, we don't know what direction the Saints are going, but what is your prediction right now heading into the pick for the Bills?
I think we've been on it. I think it's probably Landon Jackson here, right?
Well, I'm not going to tell you whether you're right or not. I have no idea. But I'll go Landon Jackson just because we already were talking him up for the last like how long. So I'll go with Landon Jackson, but I'm not gonna lie. Deep down, I'm hoping it's a receiver. I would love it to be a receiver right now. If they told me, if I heard Jalen Noel right now, I would feel pretty good about this draft overall.
I would feel pretty good about it as well. I could see it. I could see it, especially if there's been a little run here. If they feel like they want to get a guy, like maybe they just take the swing on the receiver here. There is still a lot of edge talent where they could get a guy in the 4th round that I think they would be happy with too. It's such a deep defensive line class.
What remaining
that's
picks
what we're not
do the Bills
factoring
have?
enough.
What remaining picks do the Bills have right now?
It's a great question. Do the Bills? There we go. What picks do the Bills have left? Okay, so they have 109. No, this is
109 was traded. So
they add 240 from the Bears. So they added a 7th. So they still have 132, 169, 170, 173, 177, and 206.
So there's still quite a bit day 3 related picks.
They're gonna move. They're moving back up into that 4th round with a couple of those 5th round picks, I would imagine.
And selfishly, I want Sean Dolak on the Bills. I'm just going to tell you that. I want Sean Dolak.
I think a lot of people do. I don't think you're the only one. And I think
you know what?
You've been banging on the table all year, though. I was going to give you your credit right away
before everyone else was.
I know.
Yeah. So I'm going to be one of those self-entitled jerks that's like, you know what? Screw everybody else. I knew who he was long before.
You should. Sometimes you got to do it. I'm
going to be selfish.
All right. The pick is in for the Saints.
Who do the Saints get? Let's wait a second. Okay. So
Buffalo is on the clock.
Bills are on the clock right now. There's a lot of good talent still available. If you're just looking at the best available, according to ESPN, Revel Jr. still on the board from East Carolina. That ACL just diminished his entire draft stock. You have to feel bad for him. Shadur Sanders, their number 2 prospect. You got to wonder how far he's going to go down. Possibilities for the Bills: Jalen Noel, Jordan Burch, Kevin Winston Jr. You got Jalen Royals, Landon Jackson, Xavier Watts. Those are some of the guys I would think would be consideration. Josiah Stewart. Both you and I have been bringing up Landon Jackson, so this would be an opportunity if the Bills really wanted to strengthen their defensive line and get an edge in addition to Sanders at D tackle. I love receiver here, though. I really think this is a good value point for receiver where you can get someone that can actually make an impact. You can ease them in. You don't need to rush them, and that's a great spot to be in. So the pick is in. We're about to hear it in a moment.
The pick is in. Electric Factory right here. Shout out Lee Evan.
Dude, it was so obvious. Like, come on. Dude, it was
we knew it, bro. They would have taken him at 62. They might have taken him at 56.
All right, so I'm going to pull up the Landon Jackson draft profile, and so we can kind of go over some of his draft profile stuff from NFL.com. First thing, let's talk about his 2024 numbers. Second team All-SEC, had 6.5 sacks, tied for the team lead, 9.5 tackles for loss, 49 tackles. The year before, he was actually a first-team All-SEC, 13.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. This is a guy that can get after the quarterback. He can make plays in the backfield, a high-energy player. He's a quality edge. I don't think you can be upset with this pick. I said before the draft that I had a little bit of inside intel that said the Bills were going to go corner and 2 defensive linemen with their first 3 picks. Jake, I know that's not like going out on the edge
Mike,
or anything, but
Mike, you gotta tell the people. You know your shit, bro.
and God, man, we were trying to make this entertaining, but you and I were like,
we were like, it's gonna be Landon Jackson.
It's gonna be safety. Like, I felt more confident about this pick than I felt like any other
than
pick.
Any other pick this night. As he's just sitting there, it's like, yeah, this is.
I couldn't even get excited. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, good stuff though. I mean, I'm happy. Like, all jokes aside, man, it's smart in my opinion. I think it makes all the sense in the world for him to be the pick in this spot, in this moment for them. I'm really excited to have it is the boring thing. It is like corner going all defense, everything else. It's paint by the numbers. It's everything, we're not surprised by this at all, but it was a smart thing. Now this defensive line, there's options all over the place now. The rotation, it's going to be a competitive camp for one thing. They're going to all those guys are going to have to earn, basically everybody except Ed Oliver and Greg Rousseau has to earn their spot on that D line going into camp. That's what you want. You want these guys to be hungry going after it. So I'm really excited about that. And two high-level guys and them addressing every hole they needed defensively. And now you go into day 3 and now you can get some lottery tickets, Mike. Now we can go for the fun wide receiver. Now we can, let's see. What do you think we do here? Like we could start taking some swings here. So I'm interested to see what happens now, but I love the prudent draft the kind of prudent draft style. I don't even know if it's prudent really. I think it just is the smart thing. It was the smart way to build this team out and what they need to do. They've addressed everything. Will these players work out? We don't know. Mike and I can't tell you that they're going to work out or not. I'm not going to give a draft grade. I'm not a draft grader or anything like that. But I think the Bills address the positions of need that they needed to do with prospects that fit their culture, fit their scheme, have some really really positive traits to look forward to them developing on. I'm really happy. I'm really happy with how the first 2 days have turned out for the Buffalo Bills so far. And I think if you're a Bills fan, you should be as well. How are you feeling right now, Mike?
I feel like they achieved what they set out to achieve. Now, will it work out? I don't know, man. As you just said, this is where I kind of differ from a lot of people. You're kind of in agreement with me on how we see it. I don't proclaim to know how this is all going to work out. I'm not an NFL scout. I'm not an NFL head coach. I don't evaluate these players, and I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of what these guys are. But you know what? We went into the offseason knowing that defensive line and corner were two of the weaknesses on this roster. And what did they do? They attacked both positions. They basically found guys in free agency that can contribute, and then they added guys in the draft that can contribute. It's going to be a nice competition to battle out the final spots behind the starters on most of this team. The best thing you can do for Harrison, not just give him the position. He has to earn it over Trey White. Mm-hmm. Now you're talking about TJ Sanders. He has to earn it over Dwayne Carter. He has to earn it over some of these other guys. Now, yeah, it helps out that Ojanobi and Hoyt are going to be out. So, yeah, you might see Landon Jackson a little bit early on. You might see a good amount of Sanders early on. But competition brings out the best in everybody. I think they have 3 talented players that have the ability to make an impact, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. I don't know, Bills. It's really going to be impossible for Bills fans to speak super highly of any of these because let's be real, how much time were Bills fans this past season watching Kentucky, Arkansas, and South Carolina football? Probably not a ton, but at the end of the day, they all played in the SEC, which is normally the best conference in college football. This past year, maybe it was number 2 behind behind the Big Ten. I want to say one thing too. I've actually seen Maxwell Harrison in person before. Little humble brag. He had last year. He had one interception. Let's see if I can find his stats last year. So he only had 19 tackles last year. He didn't play much because I'm assuming he had some situations with that. His one interception. Do you know who it came against?
Who's that?
The 11-win MAC champion Ohio Bobcats. And
no, come on.
And I was there. I was at that game. So I knew at that point in time that this kid, Hairston, was going to be a future NFL star for the Buffalo Bills. I just stayed quiet on it. I didn't want to give away anything. I didn't want him to go up the draft boards because intercepting Ohio's backup quarterback on a MAC championship team, that's a huge feat. And
you can't give away all your secrets, Mike.
Yeah.
You can't give away all your secrets.
Actually, I'll be real. I had no idea he had an interception in that game. But I knew I was at that game against Kentucky. I was at Kentucky for the Ohio game. And I just looked it up to see if he did anything against the Bobcats, and it popped up the interception. So I'm like, oh damn! Like
that's serendipitous.
Yeah.
I love it.
But great stuff there. Let's wrap it up for now. We've been on live for
we've been going for a
2
while.
hours. What are your final thoughts before we go off air? I know there's a chance the Bills could always trade up late in the third round. We're just gonna if they
we're
do.
done.
They do.
We're over. I'll post a graphic and we'll call it a day. And we'll both. I'm sure you'll have a post up on socials. I'm planning to do one tomorrow to kind of recap the first 2 days and my thoughts as well, and a blog coming up too. So there's plenty of coverage coming up if they jump back in. Don't worry about that. But my thoughts here, Mike, I'm feeling good, man. This is exactly what I in my mock before I had them drafting a cornerback with the first pick. Well, I did have them. My last final first round pick, I did just go and say Malachi Starks, and I think they could. I almost think if he did get to them, I still think it's possible that they would have just went ahead and drafted him if they did love him. But in our mock we did together, we had cornerback, D tackle at the end in that draft. I think, did we pick Landon Jackson as well? In that,
we got
in the mock.
I don't know. I don't know if did you.
I'm thinking that I think we did when we did the. I'm gonna check it as we go. But regardless, this is when we were talking about it a week ago. As I've been talking about it for months leading up to it, this is exactly how I wanted it to play out. So I can't be mad, and I'm not mad at any of the prospects they selected. Honestly, they're all guys I would have been happy taking. So, yeah, man, I'm happy, and it's gonna be a fun day 3 to see who they take, what kind of swings they take. Me and you both, and everybody, especially you though, we know this. Hopefully we get to see Sean Dolak get his name called tomorrow as a Buffalo Bill.
I love it. Awesome. By the way, you know what all 3 of these players have in common? They're all tremendous RAS scores. You got one of the fastest corners ever in the draft. You have a great RAS score with TJ Sanders, another one with Landon Jackson. The Bills like athletes. They like their clay.
Do you have them in front of you?
So Jackson was a 9.78. I don't know exactly what Hairston and TJ Sanders.
Hairston in the 8. Hairston was like 8.1 or something. You don't know what Sanders was?
I'll find Sanders in a second right now.
Okay,
Sanders was a 9.38. So they're getting athletic defensive linemen. And this isn't a shot at anybody, but it's funny how a couple people were like, well, the defense better be good now, like, because you can tell like they're upset the Bills didn't get offense. The Bills have Josh Allen. As long as they have Josh Allen, they could throw anybody on offense and they're going to score. The problem has not been offensive production in recent years. It's been, what is the defense doing when it matters the most? So the final thing I'll say, all of these picks make sense. This was the way I kind of thought it would go. I couldn't have told you the players they were going to select, but I knew it was going to probably be some combo of corner, D tackle, maybe edge, maybe safety. Now, day 3 going forward, get some depth at other positions where you need to think about the long-term development. Find some special teams contributors and fill out the remaining part of your roster. And you know what? Get Sean Dolak just so I can get another UB linebacker on this team. I would really appreciate that. I love the UB linebackers. And when everybody was talking about Ed and Jason, I was talking about Sean Dolak. So get Sean Dolak. I'll be happy. That's the only wish I have. And I can't wait to see it play out tomorrow.
I'm excited. My brother's chiming in. He wants him to trade back in for a wide receiver. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind it. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm excited with this haul, Mike. We picked Kyle Kennard, who is not off the board yet. And you were questioning me on that selection in the moment. And I was like, I don't know if this is the guy, but I did say an edge in that moment. We had cornerback, D tackle, edge though. 1, 2, 3 in our mocks when we did that. So we were right on there with this exactly falling the way it has for the Bills. I'm excited. I'm very excited for this next upcoming year. And I think this is exactly what they needed to do in this draft to position themselves best to make a run at a Super Bowl. Because that's all that matters at this point.
All that matters.
Can these three contribute to a Super Bowl run next year? They have the best chance to. I think they're going to be best positioned to out of anybody else in this draft, or at least from the positions and the way they attacked it. So I'm happy with it, man. We'll see what happens on day 3. But Mike, let's get you a break before you have to go. Before you go join Pat Moran tonight and finish off. You get a little bit of a break tonight instead of being on for 4 hours straight. Thank you everybody for joining along with us. Shout out to our sponsors, Buffalo Freddy, Party Rental, and Salino Plumbing and HVAC. For Mike Bunt, this is Jake Micah. The Bills have gotten better this weekend. That's what we can definitely say. Shout out to Maniac and Donnie, who are holding it down there at the Bandits game. Shout out to the Buffalo Bandits as well. Get a big win. But most importantly, and last but not least, go Bills.